Hey everyone, Matt here from Dr. Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the Adidas Supernova Rise 2 and the Nike Pegasus 41. Now the reason for this review is these are two of the primary neutral daily training shoes in each company's respective running shoe arsenal. They're very, very popular. The Pegasus 41 is consistently one of the most common and popular selling running shoes across the world. Adidas is a very popular company. The Rise 2 might be their standard neutral trainer. However, I think they need to get a couple more versions of this before it catches on, just because, no offense, I think consumers have been a little confused about the naming and the changing up of different shoes. So as Adidas is hopefully getting a little more consistent, I think this will catch on. But a lot of people, if they're looking at, hey, what's the more common shoe within the line, are going to be looking at one of these two. So the purpose of this review is to help you figure out, if you're interested in either one of these, which one might work better for you. As always, let's start off with specs. I did my measurements in my size 10s for both of these. So the Adidas Supernova Rise 2 in my size 10 is coming in at 9.7 ounces or about 274 grams. Over in the Pegasus 41, my size 10 is coming in at 10.6 ounces or about 300 grams. So very large weight difference between the two of them. In terms of stack height, very similar. The Rise 2 is coming in at 36 millimeters in the heel, 26 in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter drop. The Pegasus 41 is coming in at 37 millimeters in the heel, 27 millimeters in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter drop. So similar drop, similar stack height, but very different midsole foams and feels underfoot. Both of them have slightly clunkier rear foots, but for different reasons. Whereas the Nike Pegasus has now gotten some solid sidewalls, has definitely increased in width in the heel, not so much in the midfoot. So the rear foot on the Pegasus really these shoes both feel like higher drop shoes. The Pegasus feels a little bit higher just because the heel is just a little bit stiffer. It feels a tiny bit clunky initially, then it rolls through nicely. It's got a really nice heel bevel that's really nice in place. It's just that it's just a little bit stiffer, and there are larger sidewalls in the rear foot here, which makes the Pegasus the more stable rear option of the two of them. They're both neutral. The Rise 2 does have quite a bit of posterior lateral flare that is slightly compensated for by a large posterior lateral heel bevel. And what this ends up happening is, because the foam compresses way better in the Rise 2, this one feels just a slightly lower than the Pegasus. Transitions a little bit smoother in the heel, still both slightly clunky. This one just feels like a higher drop shoe. This one you can feel the extension of the back a little bit. But in terms of the bounciness and how they transition, the Pegasus is the more consistent shoe and feels a little bit better on easier efforts. And it, in my opinion, doesn't transition well into faster workouts. I've tried to do workouts in both these. I found the Pegasus heel gets in my way a little bit, and it just feels obviously a little bit heavier, doesn't respond as well to quicker, faster workouts, which the Pegasus has been known to be able to do for a long time. This one feels like it's slowed down a little bit and feels more comfortable at easier efforts, long run paces. Whereas the Rise 2, because of that Dream Strike Plus midsole, it's a PIBA-based foam. It feels a lot more responsive, a lot more bouncy, and a lot more snappy underfoot. So this has felt a lot more comfortable doing workouts. When I get up into long run efforts, I do kind of prefer the Pegasus just because it's a little bit more stable in the rear foot for me. Both them are neutral shoes. Other than the sidewalls here, there's not major areas of guidance here. Yes, the Rise 2 is slightly wider throughout the shoe, but because of that extension here, it does push you against the midfoot. So both very neutral midfoots, very good forefoot, again, moderate to mild flexibility on both sides, fairly similar in that regard with a little bit more over here, but way bouncier midsole over in the Rise, and I would say more consistent midsole feel over in the Pegasus. So different rides, a little bit faster over here, a little bit better for easier, longer efforts over in here. In terms of the uppers, the fit is also very different. There's a much thicker upper over in the Pegasus. There's a thinner, slightly more streamlined upper over in the Rise, and that really helps change the fit, where actually the Pegasus is a little bit wider, but much lower volume. So I felt like this shoe almost fit short initially, and the upper needed to break in. Whereas the Rise 2, I could slip right into it. It's a little bit more snug width-wise, but has a little bit more height, so the upper kind of expands really nicely and comfortably. So if you're a little bit sensitive to an upper like riding low on your foot, the Rise 2 is going to be better because it doesn't do that. But if you want a little more width and you're willing to wait for the upper to break in a little bit, Pegasus might be the better option for you. There's a much thicker upper over here and a thinner upper. So if you want something more streamlined, the Rise. If you want a little more bang for your buck, a little more bulk, Pegasus is going to be the better option. Both have stiff heel counters, so if you're sensitive to that, just be aware. Both have great securities. Outsole is really the last piece here. Both of them have very durable outsoles. I will give the Rise 2 a little bit better, as I've seen almost no wear on this shoe after 40 miles over in this shoe. And I've got also 40 miles of the Pegasus, where I am starting to wear through the lugs a little bit, but I'm not through the outsole. So they should last a long time. The traction in the Pegasus is better. These little lugs at the bottom have always been really good and done very, very well, even on mild trails. The Rise 2 doesn't do as well. It does better on track and smooth road surfaces because there isn't a lot of like lugs or traction here. So really road specific, a little bit more versatility over in the Pegasus 41. Both of them are still great shoes. They are excellent shoes for beginners just getting into running, where you don't need something complicated. You just need to get a shoe on your foot and get some miles in. Pegasus is going to be more of that consistent shoe that's been around for a while and has a lot of pedigree behind it. The Rise 2 is going to be that shoe that has a little more snappy midsole underfoot, something that's going to have a little more pace versatility. And so hopefully that helps you figure out if you want a little bit more room but a little lower riding upper, Pegasus. If you want a slightly normal to snug fit with a little more volume, the Rise 2 is going to be a better option. They are still similar in many different ways, yet different. As always, please comment below if you agree or disagree with any of my comments on these shoes. I've run quite a bit in them. I also want to know if any of you have different stuff and opinions, because the whole point of this is to help people make better decisions about what they put on their feet. And last but not least, hope this helps.